One of my guests that has developed a strong fan following from my viewers is Mark Newton, the head of technical research for Fundstrat. He uses technical analysis and cycles to study markets and stocks like Tesla and has been sharing his insights with my channel for a couple of years now with many accurate predictions. At our interview earlier this year, Mark's overall sentiment for Tesla stock was short-term caution, but medium to long-term bullish on Tesla. At the time, he had a strong belief in Tesla's technical setup for a major rally post-June, with bullish conditions potentially lasting into spring 2026. Let's see if he still feels this way. His price target for Tesla stock by the end of the year, $488. If you're a self-directed investor looking for trusted insights to grow your wealth, check out FS Insight by Fundstrat. Subscribers get access to Tom Lee and Mark Newton's daily market insights, real-time alerts, live webinars, and curated stock lists. Thank you so much, Mark. Love it when you join, every once in a while, but almost 6 months, every 6 months you come in, you give your predictions. Much of your accurate predictions have been accurate, so people look forward to your updates of what you're seeing ongoing. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you, Herbert. It's great to be back with you and all your followers. Happy summer, everyone.
Yeah. So, let's start with that. Like you were saying that June is when you thought you were suggesting back then, it was just February. Last time we did the show was February. Said by June, you see it turning positive and there might be choppiness in November, but it'll be positive in December. So what's your Tesla stock outlook and what has happened and what do you see coming forward?
Well, it's been a gradual recovery, and I think that is bullish because the news continues to be very negative by the mainstream media. And every little time they can highlight something that's negative, it seems like they do, which is unfortunate because very few of the analysts are taking time to study what some of you and your colleagues have been discussing and do discuss every day with regards to just self-autonomous driving, FSD, and just the robotaxi rollouts and their continued push into AI and batteries and just all the good things that are going to happen coming down the pipe. We obviously had a very severe correction into April of this year. Tesla did bottom along with the market on April the 7th. We had a very sharp rally of about a little over 70%, honestly, that happened within a couple months of that bottom. And since then, it's been in what we like to call as technicians a triangle pattern, a technical trading range, which after such a move normally does get resolved by a push higher and a breakout. And I think that is forthcoming. I think that we're en route to seeing that, which could be literally any day now. We've rallied about 4 out of the last 5 days. This week has been very encouraging. We actually touched the top of this so-called trading range, and so I'm very positive that this is that this move has started for Tesla, and really a breakout in the next week would be very good towards helping the stock achieve a little bit more momentum and see some volume pick up on this rally. But ultimately, I do see it getting back to all-time highs, and that level that it hit was 488. I think that's a logical first place for it to stop, on a big move.
So you're still maintaining after you said this in February, but now you're saying, okay, you still believe that the second half of this year will be positive, and that maybe even hit all-time highs for Tesla. In this case, 488 by the end of this year. You're still going to make that forecast?
I do. I mean, those were levels that were reached last December, and so I think it would make a lot of sense. The back half of the year for Tesla historically has been a lot stronger than the early part of the year. We normally do see some corrective pullbacks. That's happened over the last dozen years, many times during the spring months, and then the back half is quite bullish. And so I say that for a couple of reasons. One is that momentum is starting to turn a little bit more positive on a number of different metrics, whether it be MACD that a lot of technical analysts use. Also, my personal cycles, which I use, are also quite bullish, and I'm happy to show that during this presentation. And we'll talk about the fact that it was earlier in the year, it was very negative, and the last time I was on, it did point to the possibility of a pullback, and I thought it would get to the low 300s, and obviously we undercut that by a small amount and got down to around 270. But since then it's been very range bound, and now even with some negative news, we see the media tends to be very negative on it, but yet most of the institutional analysts have gotten a lot more positive, and they're realizing that it's just a matter of time before they start to realize.
Some people characterize it to me saying that what has happened in the last 6 months and where we're at today is that there seems to be a bottom, that a floor has been created. So even with all these negative news, it's like, we've weathered it. It's going to not go down beyond that. So even though positive news doesn't make the stock jump, at least there's a floor. Do you agree? Do you think something that's true?
I do agree. I think it's very unlikely that we would see Tesla back under the lows that were made this spring. I think that's highly unlikely. I think at the time it hit right near 214 or so back in the early part of April. And so, the real key in the near term, if Tesla starts to turn down like the market could in the next month, there is a possibility, of course, as we enter the fall. It is a seasonally weak time for stocks. The S&P itself has been obeying this sort of seasonal pattern quite closely for the majority of this year. Then potentially the back half of August could very well bring about a pullback. So the most important spot in the near term for those that are looking at support would be, the area right near 298 that was hit really at the beginning of this month. And so that's going to be important to hold. We can go through that as
let's do that, because I saw one of your charts I'm really interested in. It's the famous chart, I think, which is the triangle, right? It's been building up. Tesla stock is building up, and at some point it can break out. I'd love to walk you through, and then maybe you can overlay it with your commentary of what are you seeing in terms of the milestones that Tesla has hit. They launched robotaxi. They've expanded robotaxi to now California. These things seem to be in line with what we expected. And if not, if anything, it's actually faster than people are thinking. But on the other side, they think that's nothing yet because it's still not yet real robotaxi.
I agree with that. Let me see if I can, this is the chart that I think most people are used to seeing, which, is a giant triangle pattern, which started back in the latter part of May. So Tesla has been operating with really under, the initial sell-off from December into, early March, about 83 days, is an important time metric going forward. And it has coincided with some turning points as you look at ratios of that actually happened right at the end of May. And then it actually signaled a bottom that happened in the early part of August. But the most important part for this chart is really the area, honestly, right near today's highs. And it lies near the upper edge of this triangle. I like to use July 21st peaks, which is 338, just structurally speaking. And so a move above that on a closing basis would serve to officially break this triangle. And I think I'm hopeful that a breakout would happen on heavy volume, similar to what we saw maybe in the middle part of July, where it can trade 140, 150 million shares on a breakout. And so if that happens, then that should drive it up towards the highs of this triangle near 367. But honestly, the target would be up, near 423 to 426 area initially, with an ultimate target that should happen right near, last December's highs. And I say ultimately, I mean probably
what is the high
for this year.
What is the last
That's
December
488, and so that was the peak that was achieved back on last December. That was that.
Can you tell me a little bit more about this triangle, right? So you're watching this movement.
So normally the fact that we've had 9 months or so,
488 last December.
So normally these triangle patterns normally are resolved by a move out of it that replicates the direction where the stock went going into the triangle. In this case, it moved from April, at levels right near 214 up to near 367, or about 70% very quickly. And then it's been going sideways for 2 months. But the triangles get tighter and tighter as the stock moves towards the apex. And then, my thinking is that it is in the process now of, beginning this process of breaking it out. And so we really need to see a move above those peaks from late July, which is, 338, and that should help to drive it up. And, if one wishes to project, you could measure the move from April to May and say that from early June, if you project up, that gets you right up near the low 400s, 425 or so. So that would be, probably a very good target initially. But, the key is Tesla's has really withstood a lot of pressure, and it's been going sideways at a time when the S&P 500 has been pushing higher. Of course, we moved higher by about over 30% or so within the last 17 weeks. So it's been a remarkable rally, but now this is starting to show evidence that it could start to resolve higher. And we note other stocks like Apple that are also part of the so-called Mag 7 also have moved sideways up until this week's breakout. So I view this as having an above average chance of working in the back half of the year, and that also dovetails with some cycles that I watch.
Okay, so you said that there's an above average chance that it's going to break through. But then you said, okay, it could get to all-time highs, 488. But that 48 you said is the end of this year. So if it does break through, are you saying this week, next week, a couple of weeks from now? When do you think it will? And then what will happen then?
Well, my thinking is the majority of the strongest part of its rally should happen between October and December of this year, which lines up with the fourth quarter. Mm-hmm. And that should be a very strong time for Tesla. If you look at the cycle, so this is a pattern that's been pretty common for Tesla that I created going back on its history. And it does show the stock honestly bottoming right around, showed the stock bottoming actually into the June-July period. And there we have a rally that moves up into September, a minor pullback. And then from October into the year end, I think, is when we're going to get the majority of its sharp gains.
Gotcha. Okay, good. All right, then. So I was asking you earlier that, the milestones, I know that you're doing technical analysis, but in terms of the milestones you're expecting to happen with Tesla, the robotaxi did roll out, these things are happening. Does that play into your analysis, whether or not, first of all, of course, the economy does, right? You guys always do a good job of forecasting what's going to happen with risk on or risk off. But what about Tesla's, whether or not they're actually hitting the expected milestones?
Well, look, I think, most of the traditional analysts are all waiting until we see credible evidence that this starts to affect their earnings. And that's really the key, I think, as to when the stock would start to accelerate, as we want to get more real proof. We know that all these things are in the pipeline, but we honestly need to see, we want to see some evidence that, the things are really starting to gain traction. And so with all these bullish things in the pipeline, you certainly have to talk about them. And most people are wise to use those in their forecasts. But at the same time, the stock it doesn't always correlate with the fundamentals, first and foremost. I mean, that's exactly why we use technical analysis in these cycles, because there's a lot that's bullish, but yet, the earnings don't reflect that. And that's why the stock is range bound. So when that changes, then certainly technicals will start to line up with fundamentals. And that's when, the move should really start to gain traction.
What about sentiment? Can you speak a little bit to what you think has happened to the sentiment? So I think what I've heard you say so far is that despite all the negative sentiment that's happened, stock has stayed at range bound, and that could be the floor, and then that sets it up to break through. Is that right?
I think that's right. I think it's very difficult for me to have a proper understanding of what sentiment is, because the majority of what we hear from the analysts has been bullish, and the majority of what we hear from the media has been negative. And so to truly understand if, what's happening across the globe is that people are still deciding to go a different route versus buying a Tesla is not something I have a lot of info on. I think that the most majority of the news networks, I heard a report on Bloomberg earlier this week that said that, BYD was making huge inroads, and and I look at the data I saw stats on South Korea, and Tesla was overwhelmingly beating BYD in every major category, So the media certainly has a big hand in controlling public sentiment. And I think now that Tesla has become less of a political stock, that's certainly, a good thing with regards to just concentrating on their core business. And the pay package has been approved. And I think that is, something that, should allow the company to really focus on its goals. But that's not honestly my strong point. It's tough for me. I have my own personal take on Tesla sentiment, but I, along with you and many, are very biased as being positive, and it's if you can convince those that watch the news every day that that Tesla's making real strides, and I think we have to see proof of that.
Yeah. All right. And so you talked about, you think it might hit, you explained it really well, October, November, shoots up to 488. What happens in 2026? Are you able to give us a forecast for that?
I think the first part of the year is going to be negative in 2026, not unlike what happened from February into April of this year in the U.S. I think that, if markets end up near their highs for the year, which I do anticipate, S&P between 6,650 and 7,000, we would have seen, 2+ years of 20% gains, and now a third year back to back to back where we're up between 15 and 20%. And I guess the issue that that I have is we're starting to increasingly see some evidence of some bifurcation within technology, and various software stocks starting to roll over a bit. And some of the defensive groups are gaining traction. I think people are getting more optimistic on the stock market rally, and that's been notably absent. It was in at least May, June, July, and now that's starting to pick up steam. So if sentiment starts to get very bullish and we're starting to see breadth deterioration, then I think that at least in the first part of the year, that would open up the chance for a cyclical pullback or correction.
Pullback.
But as we know, look, Tesla's been through the ringer for and it's been range bound obviously for some time, and so the larger pattern is still quite constructive, going back since 2021, and I think a breakout of the triangle is the first part of the process. I think it probably is starting, but we want to see a move over 338. Momentum has been improving. We want to see that continue. Technically a triangle pattern doesn't give you a whole lot of conviction until we see the breakout. We see
breakthrough. Yeah.
Big volume flow back into the stock. Yeah. I mean, those are classic technical type signs that we can start to enjoy that kind of acceleration that we know Tesla is capable of and has done.
So last time we spoke over a year ago, you said that once it breaks through and gets to its all-time high, if it breaks through the all-time high, Tesla's the kind of stock that's going to go to like 700s or something like that. Do you still feel the same way?
I do believe that. And I 100%, and I say specifically all-time highs. I mean, it did actually make an all-time high, into last December, and then it promptly failed. So now, if it were to happen again, it actually has more credence because it's already been tested once, and you basically have a giant base. And so my thinking is that is going to happen. The question is, does it happen between October and December of this year? That's not for, very, very difficult to put that kind of a timetable and say it's going to go above 600 and this and that. But I can certainly say with a lot of confidence that my cycles show a very positive bias for the back half of the year, and that it does appear to now be starting to show more momentum. And I think that a breakout is going to be imminent, and that's going to help to lift the stock. So
you guys, Tom Lee and you, Fundstrat, you guys have an ETF called Granny Shots, and Tesla's one of your top holdings, correct?
That's right.
What's your role in that, and why did you guys
That is correct. Tesla does remain a Granny Shot. So for those that are unfamiliar with Fundstrat, or the head of research, of course, Tom Lee, created an ETF the ticker is GRNY, and that allows one to be able to participate in owning the stocks that are part of this Granny Shot list. So the methodology is something based on a bunch of different thematic buckets of largely it can be large cap growth and focus, but it's had a consistent track record of beating the S&P. And it's up to about $2.2 billion in about 8 months. So it's had a very fast period of growth thus far. And it's fortunately it's done very well.
What's your thesis on Tesla, and your expertise and technical, does that play into this at all, or is it just that's the fundamental reasons why you chose it to be part of the ETF is fundamentals.
Yeah, I don't control the day-to-day portfolio management process of this ETF. That's done by Ken Schwan and Tom. And so I weigh in on some of my favorites and least favorites every month on our conference calls, and we talk about some of the stocks that show real promise and the ones that are lagging. But in terms of any ETF that I would have any say on, that hopefully will come down the pipe in a couple of years. That would be great.
So there's 30, right? Is there 30 stocks in the ETF, or is there more?
Oh, I think it can be as many. I think right now that's about right. Yeah, that's correct. Mm-hmm.
And then do you know where Tesla stands right now? Is it their number one holding, or is it somewhere in the middle? We don't know.
I do not think it's in the top 10 right now, but it is still a granny shot. I mean, and honestly, technically it's been range bound. So it's been, if I were to say this is the way to run an ETF, I would say that's probably right. I mean, most of the names that are the top holdings are ones that are showing a little bit better relative strength. And it's going to take some time, but I think Tesla will get there.
Gotcha.
Tom Lee is very bullish on the company and very likes the stock. And so there's a reason why he included it as part of the list.
Yeah. So tell me about the Mag 7. What's going on with that and AI in general? Is the AI story being told? Is Tesla being now seen as an AI play?
I think the institutional analysts would agree that Tesla certainly is an AI play, and it is very undervalued in that regard. I would say that the world as a whole probably does not yet see Tesla as an AI play. That's not my perception that it's very well known yet there. Mag 7 has done phenomenally well, and Tesla has been a laggard in that regard, obviously, and I think that likely will change as Tesla breaks out and can start to play catch up a little bit. Stocks like Meta, of course, and Microsoft have done phenomenally well. Others, of late, like Netflix and Amazon, have lagged a bit, and now they're starting to stabilize and turn up. But it's been one of the certainly the biggest source of earnings growth within the market. And so people complain about the composition of this rally and say, well, it's only 10 stocks that have made 80% of the gains. And, that is true, but you also have to realize that those are the stocks that are making some of the greatest gains in earnings as well. And so, these are companies which have changed all our lives for the better. That's honestly a good thing. That shouldn't be seen as a sign of a bubble. So I'm optimistic on technology. I think we're in a secular wave of AI that's going to continue for a number of years. And
you're very bullish on that then.
It's difficult to try to claim that.
Okay. And then as Tesla is a growth company, it's a story stock still, waiting for the earnings to appear second half of next year, longer with robotaxi and bots. So it's very sensitive to the economy. What's your forecast for that? Are you able to share that? I know sometimes you got to wait until when you release the info, but we're all always bated breath waiting for what Fundstrat thinks is happening because you guys are pretty good.
Yeah, honestly, well, I can't share Tom Lee's forecast. Obviously, we come up with our year-end forecast as of the end of this year, and once that's set in stone, then I'm certainly happy to share that with you. Both Tom and I have targets, up above 6,600 for the S&P, so we're both positive for this year.
Right. I heard Tom say that it's an all-time high.
Tactically, I'm starting to.
S&P will hit all-time high this month, right?
Yeah, that's right. I mean, look, we're almost there. So it's been a very quick recovery as of now. So both of us have looked at the world from different lenses and have come up with the same conclusion. So that's always refreshing.
Optimism.
I think tactically, we have to expect that we probably do get some type of a backing and filling in the market in maybe late August, September, and that will be a buying opportunity that I think most of us will look to take advantage of.
Okay. So is it fair to say, again, we don't know, right? This is not financial advice. I'm guessing what might be happening, but things are setting up well. What you're going to see is there's going to be, like you warning us, that in August, September, it might go down, but in October, November, December, it could go back up. Tesla might hit 488, but if the economy is also behaving, no world wars, no more force majeure events, it's looking like it's lining up. And then Mag 7 sentiment is high still. Does it all look like it's going to keep an AI optimism, all that, second half of this year?
Yeah, I think it's right to say that most that were worried about the tariffs, have missed out on a lot of this rally. It really has not materialized like what people have thought. And so the economy has proven to be a lot stronger, a lot more resilient. And now we're seeing just some minor evidence of labor market slowdown. It is right to say that things are moderating, but that doesn't always mean that they're that we're going into a recession, certainly. And so the forces of AI themselves tend to be very deflationary that would, I think, offset any inflationary effects of tariffs. And I am pretty optimistic. We have about 4 cuts now baked into the curve between now and next July for the Fed. And I think that we're in an environment where the economy has been pretty resilient. Earnings have been actually better than expected this past quarter, and over 83% of companies have beaten what arguably has been a pretty low bar for earnings. And most analysts were, obviously lowered many of their forecasts, and these companies continue to be able to beat. And so I think the combination of good earnings strength, good economy, as well as just a nice technical rebound, it's caused a little momentum, and technology has been very bullish for the market. And we'll see what next year brings. I think this is a year for risk taking. I think the majority of the market is in excellent shape, and I think treasury yields are going down. The dollar is falling. Yields going down plays into the administration's goal of trying to refinance 10 trillion of that $37 trillion deficit, and that's possible with yields pulling back. And so there's a lot of reasons for optimism, and I share those. I think that it's wise to always put on the blinders and ignore geopolitical events or anything exogenous. You have to follow technical analysis. You have to follow what price trends are telling you. And for Tesla, we got a great move last year, of course, and this year was early on was a little bit of a disappointment, but it's been choppy, and now
you're
the triangle pattern,
like we're really
is close to giving way to a nice upside breakout.
Upside breakout.
That's exactly right. No, Tesla actually hit the highs of that triangle.
Yeah. So
it's all very good news for a stock that honestly has been under pressure and has been, a source of consolidation for honestly, the last 3 years, really. I mean, and so once we can start to achieve that kind of that technical progress, and I think slowly but surely we're going to start to see Tesla join the leaders of the Mag 7, and will be recognized as such.
Good. Thank you for that. So we're close to breakout. We'll see what happens the next few weeks. But more importantly, we'll wait till the end of this year. There will be drops. It could test the lows again, but there's a floor. And then maybe by the end of this year, we'll get back up to the all-time highs. Thank you so much, Mark. I appreciate it. Always waiting to hear what you're thinking about Tesla specifically. You've called it right several times now. So we're looking to that. So people should follow you, right? Go to your website, but also I've got your QR code here. Do you want to kind of share what this is? Yep, that's your QR code, Mark. So people click that. What will they get to? Your subscribers?
Right.
Yeah.
So that will enable people to sign up for a free trial of our work at Fundstrat and FS Insight. So this enables people to get my work along with my videos, those of Tom Lee, along with our digital currency, our crypto team, as well as our policy team at Tom Block. So look forward to speaking with you again once we can resolve this triangle pattern, and we'll have a little bit more conviction that the stock has started to move up right away. And I think that's forthcoming.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Follow Mark at his X handle at Mark Newton CMT. Check out the website, fundstrat.com. And then, click on this to get yourself a free subscription to their newsletter. Thanks, Mark. We'll see you again soon. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Herbert. That sounds great. Bye-bye.
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.